Hi, and welcome back to another Cellar Dwellers film review, this time on another MCU movie. Feels like it's been a little while since we talked about the last one, so part of the goal today is going to be covering whether or not it was worth the wait, and whether or not maybe you should be excited for the future. Of course, today we're talking about The Marvels. The Marvels is film number 20-something in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the second movie to feature Captain Marvel as the main character. This time around, however, she does have her own team, hence the title, The Marvels, plural. In addition to Captain Marvel, you have Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, and Spectrum, Monica Rambeau, or could be Photon, they never really say. They hint at Spectrum, but we're not sure. I want to put it out there flat out right now, that as of this recording, as of me watching The Marvels, I have not seen Miss Marvel or Secret Invasion. So there could be plot points that I missed out on, or things that I talk about here in this video that maybe could have been solved if I had watched those two shows. But I have commitment problems with TV shows, that's why I stick to movies. I'll watch them eventually, but spoiler alert, I don't think that really affected my viewing of The Marvels too much. And while we're at it, let's just talk about the whole idea of Marvel TV shows. Personally, I think that Marvel venturing out into the prospect of TV and limited series is a good thing. It's perfectly fine for what they want to do in universe building. However, if they want the movies to continue at the same rate that they're going, I think that TV shows should be not required viewing, but it should be enhancement viewing. Like I said, I haven't seen Miss Marvel, but I knew the character existed, I was aware of her presence in the MCU, and I knew she was going to be in this movie. I haven't seen Secret Invasion, so I don't know what the Skrulls have been up to since Captain Marvel, the last time we saw them, but they weren't in this very much at all, so again, it was fine. I have seen WandaVision, I still to this day think it's the best Marvel limited series out there, so I did understand the backstory of how Monica got her powers. I understood the consequences of those actions when she walked through the Hex, and when they mentioned it in this movie, I was a little bit in the know. So I do think that the Marvels did a good job of balancing these three limited series in Miss Marvel, Secret Invasion, and WandaVision in a way that didn't make you feel stupid for not watching them, but made you feel rewarded for knowing the story of those shows. And now with that out of the way, we can just focus on the movie. The Marvels was, quite honestly, a pretty fun superhero movie. Sort of in the style of Silver Age comics that don't really take themselves too seriously. But at the end of the day, it's really a popcorn movie. The story focused on Captain Marvel, Spectrum, and Miss Marvel all having their powers intertwined, so that when two or more of them use their powers at the same time, they end up swapping places. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, there is a Kree leader named Dar-Ben who wants to resurrect her planet Hala by siphoning the resources from other planets in the galaxy. Now there's also some silly little details with the bangle that Miss Marvel wears. Dar-Ben has the other one. She needs the other one to expedite this process, but we don't need to get into that. We don't need to. Mostly because this movie killed off Dar-Ben in her first appearance, which is a problem that Marvel has with a lot of their villains. Which is a shame because a lot of these villains are actually really enticing for an audience. I mean, just look at Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger. Still, he is one of the most well-loved villains of the MCU. And he died at the end of Black Panther. But not only am I a little upset that Marvel didn't know how to handle the main villain in this movie, it's that after she died, Carol went back to Hala and just rectified almost all of their problems in one fell swoop. It sort of made half the plot of this entire movie feel utterly inconsequential when the problem is fixed that quickly and effortlessly. If Dar-Ben maybe had a change of heart and decided to work with the Marvels and figure out this problem together with the people of Hala, then maybe the resurrection of Hala's son would have been a bit more impactful than Captain Marvel simply flying into it. In the same sense, the reason that the Kree people hate Captain Marvel so much happened in between movies, so that the information sort of had to be plot dumped onto the audience, of how Captain Marvel, after the first movie, went back to Hala, destroyed the artificial intelligence that was controlling the Kree armies. Watching the Marvels, the audience was just sort of told. Something like that should be a crucial plot point could have benefited from maybe a 10-minute prologue at the beginning of the movie. Maybe thrown in there with a little bit of recap of what happened in the first Captain Marvel movie, considering it was about 4 years ago at this point. Nonetheless, the relationship between Captain Marvel, Dar-Ben, and the Kree people is explained in one way or another throughout the runtime of this movie. So while I do think that it was a little weak and some things could have been shifted around to make it a super strong script, I suppose it was fine how it is. Sam Jackson's Nick Fury really stole the show with certain comedic lines in a truly effortless manner that only Sam Jackson can do in these Marvel movies. However, his screen time was not the longest, and that's totally fine because he wasn't the focus of this movie. The focus was the team dynamic of the Marvels. I think I can confidently say that Carol Danvers' Captain Marvel had a bit more personality in this movie, more so than she did in the first one. And I think that's attributed to the fact that Captain Marvel, or at least this iteration of Captain Marvel, works much better on screen as part of a team, whether she's just a member or a leader. The lighthearted relationship that Monica and Kamala bring to the table serves as a really good foil for the seriousness that Carol always wants to put forward, no matter who she's talking to. This can sort of bring Carol out of her shell, make her a little bit more loose in certain situations, but she never loses that seriousness that she needs to protect the people of the galaxy. It's just that this time, she might be having a little bit more fun. And for an audience that's been conditioned over the last couple of years with poor reviews of Marvel movies, that little bit of fun goes a long way when translating it through a screen. I also really liked the suit design for the Marvels, seeing as when they get to the singing planet, which we'll touch on in a moment, they all get new superhero suits. Spectrum's suit, perfect, no notes. Captain Marvel's suit, design-wise, was awesome. However, I do err a little bit more on the side of the bright colors that she sported in her first outing, rather than the muted tones in this movie. Miss Marvel's suit, also very good, but I think it's a little bit too busy with a lot of colors and gold accents flying around, and I'm a bit more partial to the suit that she wore early in this movie and in the television show that was a little bit more basic, and you could kind of believe that she made it in her bedroom. It's a similar idea to the nanotech Spider-Man suit from No Way Home, with the black and gold spider. It's just a lot to look at. I'd much rather the simpler colors. But let's be honest, that doesn't detract from the overall quality of the movie. After seeing this movie, I can think of 3 scenes specifically that signaled the tonal shift of Captain Marvel. The first being the training montage when the 3 women all get together and start trying to figure out how their powers are intertwined and how they can use that to their advantage. This scene takes place on Captain Marvel's ship floating somewhere out in space, and I think it's a great way to acclimate the audience with this new team dynamic, all while covering the fact that it's going to be a fun relationship between the 3 of them. In that maybe 2 to 5 minute scene, the audience knows exactly how these women are going to work together for the rest of the movie and exactly their feelings towards each other. It doesn't mess with the pacing as it comes in right around the end of Act 1, beginning of Act 2, but having that little moment of fun in there really grabs the audience's attention and puts them back in their seat for the remainder of the movie. Later on, the Marvels end up on a planet where everyone only communicates through singing. And while the costume design and cinematography and overall visuals of this planet were absolutely stunning, the placement of it was a bit iffy for me. I understand it needed to be there, but the shock value of everybody just singing, including Captain Marvel herself, was just a little bit odd, but not enough to really throw off my attention. Also, I really thought that Prince guy was going to be a bad singer and that was going to be the joke, as everyone on that planet, I guess, has an incredible singing voice, but I was wrong. And finally, the third scene is right at the tail end of Act 2 going into Act 3 when the Marvels figure out that Dar-Ben wants to siphon the sun from the Earth's atmosphere. The Marvels show up on Nick Fury's space station and find that Goose, the cat who's not a cat, has laid dozens of eggs that hatches more cats that aren't cats. The escape pods are down, the people need to exit the ship. How do they do it? They have the cats that aren't cats eat the people and then load the cats that aren't cats onto an escape pod to send them off so that they can spit out the humans when they get back to Earth. Quite honestly, I thought this scene was incredibly childish. I don't think it really had a place in this movie, even though The Marvels is a lighthearted, fun film. This just sort of felt shoehorned in, and at this point in the movie, we're really starting to figure out Dar-Ben's plan. We find out the repercussions of what will happen if Dar-Ben is successful, and when we're finally ready to follow the Marvels into this final fight, you have this scene that cuts into the movie, kills the pacing, and makes me realize that this time that I'm watching, seeing these cats that aren't cats eat people, I really just want to see the end of the movie. I want to see the conclusion of the plot. I want to see how everything works out in the end. I think if this scene was cut entirely, maybe the ending would have gone a little bit smoother. And now obviously we get to talk about the part that keeps everyone in their theater seats until the lights come on. The end credits scene. At the end of this movie, Monica has to fly through an interdimensional rip and use her light-based powers to close it, sealing her on the other side in another dimension. First off, I don't really know how she knew that was another dimension, considering there was no interdimensional talk in the entire film. So, for something like that to happen, and Monica to just have all of the answers immediately, felt like a little bit of a shortcut taken in the scriptwriting process. However, let's just overlook that fact for now and understand that it happened, we can't do anything about it. The end credit scene begins, and Monica wakes up in a hospital bed and sees her mother, Maria Rambeau, next to her. As she's going through certain stages of shock, she realizes that this woman that looks like her mother is not her mother. And a very familiar voice comes off from the side, and it is Beast from the 2000s X-Men universe. Somehow, the tear in space-time that Dar-Ben has created sent Monica Rambeau to the X-Men dimension. Yes, that is right. We are talking Hugh Jackman, Famke Janssen, Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, and from what I understand, she's placed at a point in the universe that is after the happy ending of Days of Future Past, when Wolverine comes back and finds out that the mutants are thriving at the X-Mansion, everything is going well in the world, and the X-Men are the protectors of civilization. So, will this be the Deadpool 3 connection, seeing as the Deadpool movies obviously take place in that same universe? We already know that Hugh Jackman is going to be in Deadpool 3, so I'm cautiously optimistic about the X-Men joining the MCU, seeing as after the departure of characters like Iron Man and Captain America, we really need some heavy hitter names like Wolverine, Professor X, Magneto, Cyclops, etc. But don't you think it's a little confusing to use Maria Rambeau again? Seeing as she was just Captain Marvel in Earth 838 and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness? I don't know, to me it just feels like they might be going to the well one too many times here. But anything in that universe, I will withhold judgment until I see Deadpool 3, hopefully next year if it doesn't get delayed again. And at the same time, I'll still be looking forward to their involvement in the eventual Avengers Secret Wars. So back to the big question then. Was the Marvels really worth the wait? Yeah, sort of, I guess so. It's a real fun movie, and what I've learned over the last couple years with Marvel movies is that the Infinity Saga was such a well-contained story, and years later, we're only just realizing where the multiverse saga is beginning to go, with movies like The Marvels and miniseries like Loki. So while we still have to figure out the importance of earlier Marvel films like Shang-Chi, I think that maybe having a little bit more patience will probably be a good thing. So until the next Marvel movie comes out, keep an eye on Cellar Dwellers Productions here for your latest in movie reviews. Leave a comment down below telling me which movies you think I should cover. Share this with all of your friends. And as always, thanks for watching.